Hey Ram fam, it's time for Ram Zone. Here's your host, Cam Allen.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Ram Zone. I'll be your host, Cameron Allen, and this week we've got a special guest, Coach Barb Odale of the women's ASU golf team. And we'll just go ahead and get started with Coach Odale. It's happy to have you back in here in a different setting.
It is. It's kind of cool. Very nice. Reminds me of my undergrad days. I was a TV radio major. So.
Oh,
yeah.
You were a TV radio major?
I was.
And then you ended up being a golf
coach. You know.
So going into your college on how you became a coach, you went to SMU.
I did.
We'll go ahead and get started.
Go Ponies. You know you gotta talk football, like Louisville, win over Louisville this week. So, you know, top 25 ranking. And then I beat TCU. We beat TCU, so it's good right now to be a Mustang.
I'm a big TCU guy.
Oh,
that was
no.
tough, 66. But how does it feel, your college alumnus, winning like they are right now in football?
Oh, in football, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a good feeling to come back because back in my day, I was there when the death penalty was there. So we had just come off winning Southwest Conference and feeling of being top dog in Southwest Conference to nothing, to death penalty. And it's taken almost 30 years to really kind of get back into the college rankings and being taken seriously as a college football team. So it's good to be a Pony right now.
But we're not here to talk football,
no,
obviously.
We're
here to talk about you, your golf team here. But you went to SMU, like we just said. Maybe expand on your golf career. I know you had 7 collegiate wins and 2 Southwest Conference championships.
Yeah, back in the day before obviously the Big 12 merger and stuff like that, there was the Southwest Conference and then the Big 8. Big 8 eventually merged in with Southwest Conference, became the Big 12, but SMU got left out of that. That happened in 96, 97. But back in my day, Southwest Conference was University of Texas, Texas A&M, SMU, TCU, University of Houston, Rice, Arkansas was in there, and Baylor, and so Texas Tech. So it was a great, strong conference for golf. I was really blessed to be able to play against some of the best. I did end up winning the conference championship my sophomore and senior year. I was really fortunate to start getting on a roll starting my junior year. I think that Southwest Conference win helped me springboard into my junior year, which is where I ended up named first team All-American, in the top 7 in the nation, fighting for the national championship. Got beat out by Annika Sorenstam. So it was good times back then. We knew a lot of people, knew a lot of the men. It was a different time. I was talking to a recruit about that. Like back now, it seems like there's a lot of girls are all in one together, and a lot of the girls don't even know each other. And back in my day, the really good players knew not only the girls, but the men as well. So like I knew Phil Mickelson. I went on a recruit trip with Jim Furyk. We played cards with David Duval. Like all those guys that are, now on the senior tour, because we're a little older, a little more weathered. We had good times back then. But, I was really fortunate, and that's kind of that was my reason to go to school. Actually, I wasn't really there to pick up a degree, to be honest. Degree was kind of my parents made sure that they wanted that absolutely I was going to graduate, but my heart was set on tour aspirations, and but that changes as you time and mature, and I turned pro and signed some really good deals with Callaway and Titleist and was on track, and then you get derailed by love. So I met my husband, and we decided at that point I'd rather be married than a tour pro, so kind of transitioned into the club pro. Worked at a really great golf course in Houston area called Cypresswood. Learned how to teach the game. It's one thing to know your own game, but to really be able to teach it to others and teach different swings and styles and stuff like that and work with different people. It's just kind of, looking back, I was just really blessed. I was on a course that just helped me I really feel like God guided me to each of my decisions and led me to an excellent career. And even then, going into being hired as a college coach at Sam Houston State, I was the men's and women's assistant coach. And then I was only there 4 months before I got picked up as a head coach down at UT Pan Am, which is now UT RGV in the Rio Grande Valley. So it's just, I kind of approach my coaching from a player's perspective. I think just because I've been in that upper echelon, I know what it takes. So I try to coach the way I would have wanted to be coached when I was a player.
And so talking about that, a lot of coaches, they go from maybe being a grad assistant after their playing days, but you weren't a graduate assistant.
I was not, no. We, like I said, my transition was to the professional tour. I didn't make the LPGA. I missed it by 2 shots for qualifying for my Q card. Both years, both my first year and my second year, I was 2 shots short of getting full exempt status. At the Q School finals. So mine comes more, like I said, I'm a playing background, I'm a player. I'm not coming from a coaching standpoint. So I've had to learn that. And that's kind of where I learned a little bit as, like I said, from teaching part, from Cypress Wood with Kevin Kirk, who's a PGA Teacher of the Year, to then learning from what to do and what not to do from my own coach at SMU, from my head coach Greg Priest at Sam Houston, to just watching and listening to my players, because I think that's one good thing that I do is I try to listen and really feel and fulfill what they need. What do they need as a player to make them a better player?
And so talking about you were a club pro at a golf course. What type of transition was it, being maybe teaching members that might pay you to give them a lesson to going to the collegiate level? Was there much of a transfer there?
There is. Well, because like a lot of being at the club pro level, you have a lot of beginners. I was given a lot of women that, and during the early 90s, a lot of women were wanting to be with their husbands on the golf course. So they were trying to learn the game. So taught a lot of beginners. And to me, it's fun because it's a real satisfying to watch them go from like missing the ball to actually making contact, to making pretty good contact. It's a different level, and that's where I learned from Kevin about the different PGA styles. We studied a lot of film. Back then it's film, it wasn't, and we watched a lot of film on different PGA pros, different styles. He just came from a PGA background, so we didn't look at a lot of LPGA players, but golf swing is a golf swing, and it really helped me understand the fundamentals, that there's like different types of swing that still work. Tiger Woods swings it way different than Jim Furyk, which swings it way different than Phil Mickelson. And so you've got to be able to understand how do you work with those players, still working with a swing that works for them and their body type, to really being able to score. And that's where I think for college coaching, it's my job to really help the girls understand how can they get the ball in the hole faster and in the less amount of shots. It's different when you're shooting 77, 78 to take it down to 74, and it's a lot of more mental. You're talking 95% mental. Here's what we need to be thinking. Here's how we need to change just a little bit. And so it's a matter of, the team coming in and buying in on my philosophies and understanding that what I'm trying to get them to do is be a better player overall.
And so you talk about the college players you're coaching, and you get to recruit these people. And I know this year, a way different team than your first year last year. You brought in 10 freshmen and 1 transfer from McClellan College, I believe.
McLennan. Yep.
And what's that like, that recruiting, bringing in new players like that?
So for me, it's just a matter of feeling them out. And it's really about, I can't tell you that there's a special magic wand that I have and a magic crystal ball. It's really a matter of seeing, does the player believe in what I believe? to be honest, mine is really kind of filtering through their parents a lot of times.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially with golfers, their dad is talking, oh, she wants to do this, she wants to do that,
Yeah.
and then you kind of like, is it really her or is it her dad, that really wants to go? And so that's kind of the tricky process of recruiting is, yeah, I can find good players, but do they match with what we're doing? Does it match the personalities? So, yeah, I feel like I was really fortunate. 10 freshmen, super excited. The one junior college transfer, and then to have Lacey there, kind of the glue. I would call Lacey Stevens, our senior, the glue. She has a great story herself. She started out as a walk-on and earned scholarship dollars, by playing better and playing better. And we were even talking about this the other day. She's a completely different player than she was, 3 years ago. And so even if I'm starting out now with even better canvas, my players are coming in shooting between 73 and 77. If we can start getting them to buy in and do it, now we change the pattern down to like 68, 72 and shift them down by the time they get to be seniors. And then we're really competitive for a national championship.
And you talk about them buying into your culture here. And I know that for golf especially, you recruit a lot outside of the United States. What's that kind of like, that recruiting process and then getting them here?
Sure. Well, again, kind of one of those fortunate SMU ties. I have a former Mustang that is a recruit for the Scandinavian countries, and it's her job. And she was a good player in her own right at SMU. And she gives me a call when I first got the job here and said, hey, I saw that you're in Angelo State. Man, I'm so happy that you're back in coaching. And with your personality, Barb, I want to be able to be comfortable sending my players to you, and I love that. And so she hooked me up with Johanna, and Johanna then said, hey, I have a friend, and then we've got Louise. So Johanna and Louise come to us from Sweden. I was trying to get Caitlin here from Australia. I was trying to get her in here last spring because in Australia, being down on the bottom, they graduate in December for high school. So she had graduated in December. I was like, hey, would you want to come? And she considered it for a while, but no, she would really kind of had her mindset on taking us there, because their summer then is January, February, March. Like she wanted to have a summer and take a break, and I get it, you know. So we were super fortunate. She came in with such a strong SAT score, and but when I saw her swing, and that's the kind of cool thing here nowadays. You can watch their video, you can watch them kind of play, you can watch where their scores are and who they're competing against, and really still be able to tell if the kid's gonna be pretty good. It's still kind of that kind of gamble a little bit, but then all the Texas girls that came in were all from came in and came to visit and to get to know them and their parents. And then Mia, who is our junior college transfer from England, she was playing in McLennan, and the old McLennan coach and I are really good friends. And so, hey, Barb, I've got a friend. So it's kind of one of those that just kind of fall into place, and you kind of, okay, here's the first layer, here's the second layer, and we put them all together, and you're like, hey, this is going to be a pretty good team. This is pretty special. So, and I think, they're just starting to realize that hey, we are pretty good, and so it's going to be super fun to watch them.
And you talked about your contact who's in the Scandinavian region, and she does some recruiting up there. How many contacts do you have from your past, being a player in college and being in Club Pro? How many contacts do you still stay in contact with?
Well, I haven't stayed in contact with many. Everybody's like, oh, you should reach out to Annika. Well, I haven't talked to Annika in 30 years. I'm not going to call her up and go, hey, can you give us this? I mean, that's kind of, that would be a little tacky. No, but because the golf community is so small and that contact is there, we have that bond, and so I can call, and I feel comfortable in some situations calling and going, hey, and it's also kind of one of those that I was gonna try and start like getting myself ready maybe for like the senior tour to play like in the summer when I'm just recruiting, but my back was not holding up this summer, so I'm trying to strengthen it, and maybe I can try again next summer and really kind of unite some of those contacts as well. So then, you know, if I'm playing in the Senior Open, I can talk to some of my friends that are strong players, and you know, they have ties. But it's just all a matter of, okay, so you're not quite good enough for, you know, SMU, but here, you know, you're going to thrive. So the hardest sell really is that, can they buy in that they're not going to be Division I, that it's Division II? And for the Europeans, it's really not that big of a deal. They just want to go in and start winning and winning championships. And so it's kind of more of a Texas kid deal that, you know, it's not a slap in the face that you're in Division II, because quite honestly, our top 30 in Division II can really compete against, really, if you're looking, I mean, 1 through 30 in Division I, they're way up there. But, you know, after the top 30, honestly, I would put our DBU up against any one of those teams. And, you know, they're consistently number one in and out of rankings for us. So, and that's who we go against. That's kind of the cool thing. I get to tell them, you're going to compete against the best, and you're going to be able to see where you are and where you need to get to. So, and I'm here to help you to get to that next spot. So that's kind of the cool thing.
And talking about the competition, y'all have already had 2 tournaments this year.
We have.
The Swan Memorial, y'all tied for second. And y'all also had Johanna Orling, I believe.
Yeah, Johanna Orling.
She won the individual.
Yep.
And then at the Oklahoma Intercollegiate, y'all got second place again with 3 top 10 finishers.
Yep.
Mia Clark, Louise Hofgren, and Kelsey Klein. What is that like so far? You're off to a hard start. 2 second places.
2 second places are not bad. Honestly, we were really kind of expected to finish first in Oklahoma. I think the greens got the better of us. Coming from Denver, where we had really slick bent grass greens, to very, very furry, like 1-inch greens in Lawton, Oklahoma. And then the greens were super hard, so they're dried out. So not only were they slow, but then they were hard and they wouldn't stop. And so my girls were firing at the pens, and then they were they'd bounce off the green. So it was tough adjustment. They tried rolling them up, but then the golf course superintendents were watering in front of the greens, so then it was wet in front of the greens. So it was an adjustment. We didn't do a good job adjusting. I'm not going to make excuses. It just was one of those things that I was a little disappointed walking off with second, which is kind of a cool thing, because, you know, we really were expecting to win. And so, but the Swan was a good start to have an individual champion. The teams at the Swan were upper ranked teams, so top 25 teams, 2 or 3 of them were already in the preseason top 25. So for us to beat those guys and come in, we earned respect, and I did feel that from the coaches. They were like, where'd y'all come from, you know, kind of deal. And I was like, yep, okay, just keep that, because we're going to keep going. So our next 2 tournaments will be super challenging. They have some really great teams that we'll be competing against. If we can hold our own in these 2 tournaments and let these freshmen kind of develop a little bit, and then take a break, and then really come in for the spring, you know, I'm pretty excited about our chances at conference and then on to the national championship. So that's where I'm looking for.
And this being your second year, you've got these freshmen that are already playing really well. It really sets you up for the next few years here at Angelo State. How exciting is that? You can even look past this year.
Exactly. We had a recruit come in this weekend, and she went ahead and committed, called us right away and said, I want to come play for you. So that's the kind of cool thing that we're now getting better recruits, better, and it'll just kind of layer on. We have to, it's kind of baby steps, but not baby steps at the same time, because, you know, for us to be able to really let the freshman class develop in the next 3.5 years, then you kind of go, okay, let's see what they can do. And so now we're going to add to them. And so we've already got one commitment out of there. I'm hoping maybe a second one, and then that's all we need. Really, I mean, we only lose Lacey, so I really still want it competitive. Our lineup is going to look a lot different for this next tournament, so than it has in the first two. So that's going to be kind of a neat, and that just is a testament that the girls are really like challenging each other, and they know that they have to be on their game and keep it. So that iron sharpens iron is kind of what we're looking for.
And making the lineups each tournament, I know it changes constantly depending on how things are going. What is that process for you like, getting to choose your lineup for the next tournament?
So I try to take out my bias, and we do it straight by qualifying. So last week they had 3 qualifying rounds, one at San Angelo Country Club at SAC, and then they had 2 at Bentwood Country Club. To be fair, unfortunately, Mia Clark had half her toenail removed because she had ingrown toenails. So it was still healing. So she wasn't quite ready to go this last week. So she just started qualifying yesterday. So she had her SAC round in yesterday, and then she'll get 2 more rounds in on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we'll make the final assessment. But I've got the top 6 right now, and then we'll see where Mia lands. I would suspect that she is going to land in that top 5 because she's just proven herself and she's played that well. But we have a new one in there in this mix of Kara Knight. Who was a walk-on from Lubbock. She played well this last week, so she's going to be a new name in that mix. So it's kind of, again, that iron sharpens iron, and trying to keep everybody on their toes.
It's pretty fun having these qualifyings with just your team, see who's getting to go. That sounds like a lot of fun. But you talked about the 2 courses you play at here in town. How thankful are you to have courses like that y'all get to go practice at? And
see, that's such a selling point. I mean, if you add SAC, which unfortunately is closing, but even Quicksand is a great golf course out there. They've got a great track. And then kind of more of our home course would be Bentwood Country Club. And we had, like I said, the recruits that have come in have all gone, wow, y'all get to play this. And so then you add our new facility that we are practicing at. Even though it's not quite complete, we're still using it right now, trying to utilize what we have. It's a testament to the San Angelo community, because obviously I didn't put those there. I'm kind of new to this whole deal, so to have all that in place, it's an easy sell, to be honest. Angelo State sells itself. If I can get somebody on campus, we are pretty much winning the recruiting war. So that, I think, is amazing.
The facilities here are incredible, and the new golf facilities that we put in. I know have the greens been finished yet? Have y'all started hitting on
greens?
Those?
Yeah, the greens were finished back in March, but they've been letting them kind of cure for 6 months, so settle in. And so we've been hitting long shots in. They hold just like a firm green because they're turf. So you kind of have these images of, people play top golf and they hit it and they go boingy, boingy, and it's not. This is just like a regular golf hole. You wouldn't even know, like looking at the ball spin, you wouldn't know that that you're hitting into turf. So holding really great, and the cups are cut thin, so you really actually have to roll it right and true into the cup, versus a deep cup that kind of will suck in balls on the edges. So this one, they have to be a little more accurate, a little into the center of the golf hole. So we love it. The girls have loved. We've been doing short game stations. They worked a little bit long game hitting into the longer greens. Working at 150, 175, trying to work on our irons. We started working with a putting guy, and that is our next step, is to really work with him. That'll be our transition during the off season, will be to really, really grind in on what he's teaching us as far as the putting game goes, because quite honestly, if we just make 1 or 2 more putts per player, now we're 10 shots better, and now we're, you know, winning every tournament. So that's my philosophy. Yeah.
And so bringing in this putting guy to come help with the putting for the team, is it very often that you'll bring in maybe specific coaches for specific areas of the game?
It kind of depends. So this is a guy that's based out in Florida. He's worked with a lot of the LPGA and PGA pros. I've been following him on social media and following, and then he's also been guest speaker at our conventions, at golf coaches conventions and stuff like that. So he's working with a lot of D1s, some of your Power 4 conference schools, and then he's working with Grand Valley State here, which is pretty strong D2 school. And I'm like, if he can work with all them, you know, and so I went out to Florida, took a personal putting lesson with him to see what he was, you know, teaching, because I being a full swing coach, I can help that, but the putting part is a part that I've always struggled with, and how do you teach that? And his information is phenomenal. And so for us to be able to really learn and guide, he's having the girls do some drills, and he can tell by their books, like he can say, oh, that girl's putter is 2 inches too long, just by their pattern of their balls. And I think that to me is like voodoo magic, where you're going, whoa, how can you do that? He's like, it just, you know, it just does. So he was just voted Golf Digest Best Young Teacher of the Year. So it's kind of neat to be able to work with him. We're also working with Clip Data, and so the girls are entering all their data in there, and this data information will tell them specifically what they need to work on. Oh, you need to work on 10-foot left to right breaks. You're not making those. And then they'll compare them to LPGA and Power 4 Conference Division 1s to show them where they are. You know, okay, what do we have to get to? And to me, that information, gold, is just gold, because how else do you improve and know where you need to go is by comparing yourself. Okay, you take the best and go, I want to be like them. And so then how do you do that? Well, this information is allowing us to be able to do that.
And you talk about these advanced statistics and that coach who had just come in, and I wanted to ask, I was thinking about this earlier, do you like the analytical side of golf, or are you a little more traditional on how the coaching goes?
So I am more traditional as far as the coaching goes. The technology is what scared me and kind of kept me away from coming back into college coaching, because I felt like I didn't know enough about the technological part of golf. But ultimately, golf is still get the ball in the hole in the least amount of shots, and that doesn't change. So old school me tells me, okay, we need to do that, but the kind of nerdy part in me, and I was a good student, and I know we kid about me not like graduating, but I mean, I was top 5 in my class, and I came in with, you know, like just academics were very, very important in my family, but and I'm kind of that nerd. I'm a math kind of nerd. I started out as a math major, by the way, and then went to TV radio. But those numbers are priceless to me, because they don't lie. I mean, you can go, I can't tell you how many times the kids at the end of the round were like, well, you know, that was a pretty good round, except, you know, I just feel like I didn't chip very well. Well, then when they get down and look at it, no, it wasn't chipping. You couldn't hit your irons from 100 to 140. And that's like what this information will tell us. You need to work on your iron play. It's not your chipping. Maybe you shouldn't be chipping in the first place, you know, hit the green in regulation. So to me, to use that and then be able to go, okay, this is what it's telling us. This is what the data is telling us. Now that's what you need to practice. And that kind of eliminates well, when I go up to each player, okay, so what are we practicing today? And they go, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well then let me pull up on my iPad here and I can show you, oh yeah, this is what it tells you to practice. So that's cool.
I know I tried some of the stats, the Arcos things. I didn't like them. I just like to go out there and be like, this is what it feels like. I like the feel of it. And when you were playing, you didn't have all the stats. It
No, we
was mostly
didn't.
just feel.
Yeah.
But how we talked about Angelo State has all this for you. The facilities are great, and the coaches around you. Do you ever talk to other coaches?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I talk to coaches all the time. You know, it's funny because I still have a lot of friends that are Division I coaches, and I'm getting to know the Division II coaches because I didn't really know, to be honest. Came in, but getting to know them and everything else, you know, I listen to some and I go, okay, and I listen to what their players are saying. So, because my players will come in and go, oh, their coach does this, and I'm like, well, do you like that?
Yeah.
Well, no, we don't. Okay, well then that's not what we're going to do, you know. So I try to listen, try to become what each player needs me to be, but ultimately they need to step up and do it. It's an individual game. I'm not going to walk with one player for 18 holes. That's kind of the theme now, is like a lot of the coaches, they have two coaches and each coach walks with one player. I'm like, well, what about the other three? And I have like other players from other teams going, hey, Coach Odale, could you give me a water? Because I'm never going to see my coach. And you're like, well, that to me is sad because I'm not going to deny a kid giving water, but at the same time I'm going, your coach should be, I try to move. I'm moving all the time. You know, I go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and then back around 1 to 2, and then, you know, I keep driving in my little cart and I keep going up and down and just trying to keep the players, one, hydrated, and two, make sure their blood sugars don't drop. I think that's super important. I learned that as a player. Is to make sure you're nibbling a little bit at a time, you know, whether banana or beef jerky or some kind of fruit or something that keeps them kind of going, and make sure they're drinking water all the time, and then occasionally add in that Gatorade. But as an old school player, there is the feel. But honestly, I think I would have been an even better player if I'd had all the data that we have today and had said, oh, I really need to work on these 5-footers, you know, like, oh, I really need to, and especially to have the putting guy, like, to be able to have that information and know what to do other than just feel it. So we take out feelings and really go with, this is what we need to do.
Well, yeah, Coach, that was super interesting there, the last question of the interview. But, guys, thank y'all for being on this episode of Ram Zone. Be back next Monday. And I'd like to say thank you to Coach Barb Odale.
Thank you. Go Rams.